So we're gonna be doing Robert Monroe's Journeys Out of the Bottom. Journey oh man. Journeys Out of the Body as it bottoms. Journeys Out of the Body, chapters 10, 11, and 12.
Okay.
And well, I'm in New York, Brian, as you know, hanging out here. And for me to have out of body experiences, I gotta practice a lot. So now that I'm practicing a lot and doing this stuff, it's helped me get back into it. So I'd say what stage I'm in right now would be the vibrational stage a lot. And I notice when I start getting back into this, when I don't practice for a while, I get overexcited and I ruin the experience. I'm like,
Oh
okay, here I
yeah.
am. I'm starting to practice again. I'm getting the vibrations and stuff, and then I get overexcited and I lose it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes I self-sabotage myself and I'm like, okay, here they come. Let's see if I can get out of the vibrations and get back. It's so dumb, but I did have two out-of-body experiences during the time I've been back here in the last 6 months, but they
Oh,
were
nice.
very, very brief. They didn't last long. One of them I went out to see my father, and I kind of put my hand through him to see if I could actually touch him, and
Uh-huh.
he didn't see anything. So, but it's nice to get back into it. And dream recall for me has been really great.
Yeah.
That's usually the first sign is I start having a lot of dreams that I can recall easily. And I wake up from some of the dreams. I'm like, this is so cool. I want to get back into the dream again because it's so fun, so vivid.
Yeah.
And for me, I notice that's the first part of knowing that soon I'll be having a lot more out of body experiences when this starts coming for me with the dream recall. So it's pretty cool. So what's up with you, Brian? Let's see, we got Dave. Hey, Dave, welcome. Uh, what's going on with you, Brian?
Well, I've been practicing since we started these meetings, and I've definitely noticed my dream recalls improved, and I'm starting to get back into it, starting to get more into it and stuff, and I feel the practice really helps. Um, but I haven't had one since we started. I've practiced them and stuff, but not like a really vivid, experience. So hopefully I'll
Brian,
get one.
when was your latest out of body, would you say, experience? How long ago?
It was actually about a week before we started these meetings, and it was one of the ones where I was dreaming, and just became aware when I was in the dream, and just went from there. Like I said, I'm fairly new to all of this. I've read Robert Monroe's books, but I'm still, other than that, I'm still a beginner. I've only had a few experiences, and I'm hoping to improve this ability.
Yeah, and I noticed that too, Brian. Like when I first started practicing hardcore,
Hmm.
that I would have a lot of experiences and then it would just drop off and I wouldn't have any for a while. And I'm like, what the
Yeah,
hell? I thought I'm getting better at this. It seems like I'm getting worse. But then it starts to come back again as long as you stay with it. And then it starts to build back up again. It's like, for me, it was like this, but it was on a trail upwards as long as I kept practicing, as long as I kept educating myself and doing things like this, keeping myself talking to other people with experiences and stuff with the subject matter.
yeah, it's definitely helpful to be involved in a group like this.
Yeah, you did bring up the out of body experience, right? I think it was the first. Was it the first one we did, chapter one? You brought up your. I think you brought it up. Was it or chapter two? Did you bring up your OBE experience a little bit or not?
No, I don't think I've. I mean, mine wasn't too long. I was, like I said, just dreaming, and I woke up, and became aware while I
Yeah,
was in the dream. And, you know, like I said, I'm new to it. So when it happened, I was kind of like shocked. I was excited even in the dream because it's like I realized I was dreaming. And, the moving around and stuff was kind of different, it kind of took me by surprise, because it's all with like mental thought and stuff. But yeah, it was really a exciting experience, and it wasn't too long,
right.
but I'm hoping to get better at it.
Yeah. Well, this is from my experience in hosting the Austin group and stuff. This is the way to do it. You just keep moving forward,
Yeah,
even if you feel like you're not getting anywhere. You really are. From
yeah.
my experience, if I one human to another.
Hmm.
Cool. All right, Brian. We'll move it over. Hey, hey, Dave.
Hey, how
Did
you doing, Juice? Hi, everybody. Hey, Marty. Hi, Brian.
Hey,
Hey.
I'm from up north. I don't know if I've ever truthfully initiated a conscious astral projection, but I'm really happy I found this group. It's been a couple meetings I've been to now. I was going to share really quickly something. I was going through my dream book the other day, and when I was 16 years old, this was a very common thing in my teens that I would wake up and there would be people at the corner of my bed and tell me they got to take me somewhere and show me something. And I remember specifically this one. That's why I went through my dream book. At 16, I woke up and there was a kid there, and I knew he was dead or passed or whatever. You just have this feeling and you just know it. So I asked him, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "You're going to show me something, correct?" And he said, "Yeah." And so got off my bed. Both of us walked up the stairs in my house, and when we got to the back door, we went through the door, if I remember correctly. We didn't open it. We went through the door, and I saw the most amazing thing. There were thousands and thousands of people everywhere, and they all had this weird looking shimmering light that was coming from their body. You didn't see where it started, and you didn't see where it ended. It just saw it. Some people were flying, some people were sitting on the fence, but it just seemed like there were people from all over the world and they were talking. And one particular thing I remembered was that no matter how many people were there, they didn't overlap. Like, they didn't seem like they were bumping into each other, or almost as if they weren't even aware of each other, other than the ones that were speaking to each other in a meeting. After that experience, I said, "Wow, I've never heard of or seen anything like that." But I just thought it was a dream. It was until I was in my late teens, going in my early 20s, that I started reading a little bit more about dreams and the types of things you can experience in a dream. Well, that's it for me.
thanks, Dave. Yeah, I have Marty. Would you like to do an
uh,
intro?
oh, I'm from Cocoa Beach, Florida. Um, I had like 4 intentional trips in a month, and now it's been like 2 weeks, and I'm getting real discouraged because like really trying, but you think you're on a roll, and then does anybody have any experience using the hemisync recordings from the Monroe Institute? Because I've got them and I've been listening to them. I don't know if I should do something different than just put the headphones on and listen for an hour a night, or
I have a little, Marty.
how did you use yours?
I got to ask you a question, if I may, and you can tell me, you don't want to answer it. Did you buy them directly from Robert Monroe, the authentic ones, or the Monroe Institute, excuse me, or was it a downloaded copy maybe, or?
I bought the set of CDs
Great.
for out of body support from the
Okay,
Monroe
perfect.
Institute. They were 100 something,
Yeah,
100
that
around.
Okay.
But they recommend that because if you can return them if you if you don't. I mean, I'm gonna keep them, but
Okay.
If you download something, something goes wrong, or I just rather have. I'm old school, I guess. I like.
I'll just quickly give you something. I know it's the introduction time here. When you put it on and you try it, do you do it after physically exerting yourself by chance?
Yes, I have been doing that. Yes, I
Good,
don't know if
good.
anybody's ever heard of the five rights, RITES. Anybody ever hear that? you can
No, I
you can
can't.
Google. It's FIVERITES. It's a set of 5 exercises. You do 21 of each. It supposedly lines up your chakras and makes them all spin together. And there's a whole book that was written about it that's interesting. But,
No,
but
that's good.
anyway,
That's
yes, I
good.
do 5 rights first, and then I sit down, and it's sort of like yoga. The 5
No,
right.
no, that's okay. That's the first thing I want to know is if you're physically exerting yourself before you try the listening to the binaural beats. Another thing would be, do you have your headset? Do you by chance have an additional? I should show you a picture of it. It's a noise dampener. I had those headsets. They're noise dampeners, at least 25. I believe mine's 25 dB. Or do you just put it with just a regular little headset, you earplugs that you put in?
It's the like the ear muff kind
Oh,
of.
it is the earmuff, so it's dampener
Yeah,
then. So nobody can hear. You can't hear anything outside, pretty much.
right.
The ones they recommend, and it's the ones I've used in the past, are the ones that are rated for like taking a Herc plane or a C-130. Those are the
Mhm.
best. That's something to look at. And maybe I should have asked you, what was your question exactly? If you,
Well, did you notice anything from it? Like I'm not really noticing anything uh, from
okay.
that. And I
Personally, no, I can't tell you. Not from the HemiSync CDs. There is one more other thing though, that I stopped using that, and it helped me to relax and dream more in a lucid manner. It's not something that's been released. You won't be able to Google this or find this anywhere, but they were practicing it at the Institute. Is, in this day and age, we all talk about, everybody talks about raising your vibration
Hmm.
and raise your frequency, raise your vibration. There seems to be, I guess it's a common understanding that that's a figure of speech. Well, regarding the Monroe Institute, there was a department. They were not actually raising their vibration. They
Hmm.
they took it literally with regards to when you meditate, or you use any kind of binaural beats, you're lowering your neural oscillation, correct? You're going from anywhere between 5 to 10 hertz, the standard human being, and you meditate and you lower it, your neural oscillation, to try to aim for the delta wave pattern, which is between 0.04 hertz and 5 hertz. So you're actually decreasing your frequency. You won't find any of that. You will find that information clinically and medically, but you won't find anybody telling you to do that because everybody's focused on the raise your vibration. Well, what's interesting is the Institute, some individuals were picked and they were actually told to do the opposite of what everyone's being told to do today, and to not think of it as figuratively speaking, but to actually decrease your vibration, because I guess the census was, or they contended that if you lower your vibration to a point that you're in that wave, then and only then can you go higher, as opposed to us going straight for the gun. We're going straight to the top. It's like learning to crawl before you can run kind of attitude. But again, like I said, you're not going to find any of that on the internet. You can search, you can run an algorithm, and you won't be able to find that anywhere. That's something I guess they never shared, or they never promoted, or they never handed out to the general public.
Hmm.
But that's what the binaural beats do. That's what that stuff is supposed to. It's supposed to decrease. So when you go from your conscious state to your subconscious state, that harmonic convergence, you're literally decreasing your brain's frequency.
Yeah, and try to get you in those states faster. My experience is You just got to go out there and well, first of all, the sound is not even supposed to matter. It's just to try to isolate other things. But yeah, the Monroe Institute try to do with the hertz, the frequencies and stuff, and try to mess around with that part of it. But I guess when you get to a certain point, when you're good enough at this, you don't need any sound or any frequencies or anything. You just get right into it.
I agree.
But yeah, I guess Marty, you just work with what works best with you to get you in the state that you're trying to get into from your experience and research. Anybody else comment on that?
What was the question?
Hemisync. Does it work for you, Jason, to get you in altered states of consciousness quicker,
Yeah.
faster?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of what maybe the magic sauce is though, because I know that it definitely worked for me really well in the beginning, and then like other times it doesn't seem to do much for me. But then there's also
Wow, I haven't seen
the kind
that in
of
a long time.
weirdness that you kind of get accustomed to it, I guess. And so like you don't think you're in an altered state, but if you pause and kind of like notice your breathing and everything else, you'll see that, oh yeah, you really are. Because you're hardly breathing, your heart rate's way down, but your mind still has kind of like adapted to the state. So I don't know, but like I know that Focus 10 was my first big eye opener when we started this thing. It was over at your place where we were having that group session, and we were going through the Focus 10, and like somebody was snoring, and it was me, and it was like the freakiest thing ever to just like kind of watch myself in that state. So I mean, it works, but I don't know if you need to like listen to the beats intently. Maybe that's kind of what I haven't been doing lately that worked in the past, because I know for me, I really do have to listen to them and pay attention and watch for it, or I'll just kind of get lost in the conversation or my own thoughts, and I don't seem to get much out of it when I do that. And that's all I have to say about that.
Anything going on with you?
Well, yeah, but like kind of not how you would expect. I'm still being kind of lazy about my practices. I've got so much else going on, and I'm just trying to get that rolling, but I haven't fit it in yet.
Thanks, Jace.
Yeah.
Looks like Peter's on. Peter, you want to do an intro? Any new updates? Anything you'd like to tell us?
No new updates. No, I haven't gotten any closer to it. But yeah, so I've been interested in this for about 30 years and got into the TMI group through Jason and Stephanie, and just hoping to finally have the experience. All right, well, that's all.
All right, Mikey's having trouble again, looks like, coming and going. Mikey, do you want to do an intro?
I was born, I did astral projection since I was a child, and I had a lot of problems. I grew up in a family that thought it was evil, and I got a lot of physical abuse because of that. And finally, I dropped off, and I think it was when I was in my teens, I found a book, started to read the book again, and started to do it again. But my childhood was terrible because they did not ascribe to astral projection. So now I'm a teacher, I'm a school teacher, and students who are interested in doing astral projection, I teach them. I teach a university level, technical university level, and it's a joy and privilege to be able to bring someone up, someone who have just an interest in it, And it's such a joy when they come to me and said they can project now. So I hope that is an introduction.
All right. Well, Mikey, thanks. I'm glad your connection's holding up right now. All right. Well, here we go, guys, into 10, 11, and 12. So, chapter 10, we're getting into intelligent animals. And this chapter could be kind of scary for people. Yeah, I thought it could be kind of scary for some people who are new at this, but demons, spirits, goblins, gremlins, sordid subhuman entities, always hanging around humanity to make life miserable. So I guess you gotta take the good and the bad, right? All right, and then Monroe's wondering if these are myths, hallucinations. So what's going on? And does all this stuff is it in his imagination? And which is a good question. Somebody asked me, what's the difference between imagination and out-of-body experiences? And it took me a little while to think about it. All right, would anybody like to start the conversation on this, on the beginning of chapter 10?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, what does he mean by fractional?
Fractional relaxation?
Yeah, because he mentioned it a couple of times. Is it?
He has an area in the book where he talks about that stuff towards the end of the book.
Yeah, I didn't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but I highlighted a lot of that stuff because I like to go back and see where Monroe was using these different techniques to get out of his body.
Yeah.
And that's one of his techniques that he used. So he's got all these different names for different types of techniques and stuff that are pretty interesting.
Okay, well, look forward to getting to that part again.
Yeah, it's got a little asterisk next to it. So it's if you go down, it's in the back of the book there. You can read more about that technique. And
Okay.
I guess we'll work on that stuff as we get to the end of the book and get into those special techniques that he talks about. It's pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, reading through this, it's kind of like the first time I've been through it. I mean, there's so much that I forgot from my first reading of it. But, anyway.
I'm with you. All right, Marty.
He mentioned several times in those 3 chapters about adjusting his jaw, and somehow or other I can't remember him ever defining what that was about. Do you know what that's about?
It looks like another technique of his. I remember highlighting that. I forget which chapter it was in. I think it was this 13 maybe. But yeah, it's just I think it's another technique with his jaw, and I've heard other people talk about that too. Does anybody on here remember certain jaw techniques to get out of your body? No? Okay. Well, so does anybody here think all this stuff is originating in our imagination? I guess, whatever that might mean to you, what Monroe's talking about, or we're actually exiting our body.
Can I share? Can I share an experience?
Sure.
I have posted this a number of times. What I've realized, it's not imagination. I live in the Caribbean, and my job requires that I move from island to island to teach the university. And on one island, I rented a small apartment. One night, I projected through the wall, and I could feel that the wall was made of rubber and steel. A couple of days later, I met the landlord and I asked him, he said, what's this wall made out of? And he smiled and he said, a couple of years ago, before you came, a truck ran into this wall, and on the island, we did not have bricks. So we just put what we could get around steel and rubber, and plastered it up. And I did not tell him why I asked the question, but I have proven that there was no way in hell I could know that that wall had steel in it. And I think Robert Monroe spoke about putting his hand and he felt wood chips in the floor, in the subfloor below. So there was no way that I could have imagined or know that that wall was filled with steel. And that's just one story.
Right? Yes, and yeah, he did mention that when one of his first out of bodies, he put his hand through the floor and he felt the nail and he felt some type of liquid. And his psychologist or uh, doctor, whoever he was using back then, told him to actually tear the floor up to see if what he was feeling was actually underneath there. All right. He talks in this chapter about having an OBE experience with his eyes open, and saw a little boy in the room. So it was an OBE type experience with a little boy in the room, and that I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then it became a repetitive thing.
Oh, I got a quick comment about the last piece, imagination. Well, I think one of the tricks about it is that if your imagination is too active and you're busy daydreaming, then you can't get into the right state. So you really do have to, kind of clear your mind and be receptive in order to get there. That's, I think why Jürgen Ziva is so, good at it, because he's a really proficient meditator. Anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, so that brings it up. It's when you're out of body, is it a separate entity? Like, is your brain the one that's using the imagination? That's conjuring up the imagination, your brain? And then when you're out of your body, are you disconnected from that brain interfering with a possible imagination while you're out of body?
Yeah, I think so.
And then it starts, as the chapter goes on, just feel free to raise your hand, anybody, if you have a burning question or response to somebody else. So if I don't see anybody's hand up, I'm just going to keep moving on here. So then he gets into beings starting to climb on his back. And then one time he's basically getting into situations he doesn't like. And he's getting very scared and he's having trouble getting back to his body because things are holding him back. Certain types of beings and entities that are in this state that he's in. And then one time, these beings turn into copies of one of his daughters and try to trick him into pretending like they were okay and stuff, even though he felt like they were kind of negative energy. And then as the chapter goes on, it seems like he gets attacked more and more by unknown entities, and it gets worse and scarier as he fights to get back into his physical body. So I know some people, one of the biggest fears of out of body experiences, astral projection, is people are scared. They're scared of the unknown. And you just got to accept, I think, being scared, which I have. And then you can use techniques that you hear out there. Protect yourself with helpers, ask for help, ask for light. So you got to find your own techniques to deal with this. Monroe, I noticed in this chapter, he doesn't talk too much about it, except just trying to get back to his physical body. Either tricking the entities that are trying to get him. He tries to trick them so he can sees his body and try to get back into it. Or he tries to talk his way back into it and tell him to leave him alone, or he asks for help. Leave me alone, let me get back, stop. And he gets mixed help, and sometimes he doesn't get any help. He just has to kind of claw his way back to his body, his physical body, and get back into it.
Have any of you had a similar experience?
Dave?
Thanks, Juice. I was going to say, between the ages of 12 to 15, because we're speaking about entities, I used to have a recurring dream once or twice. I'd say at least minimum once a week, sometimes twice a week. In the beginning, I was terrified, but over the 3 years, I just got used to it. I would be sleeping anywhere in my. First, I would start in the bed. I would wake up in my bed and look up, and there would actually I wouldn't look up. My eyes would look more towards the front, but I would be lying down, and I would see two beings, one very tall looking, pale female, and a shorter man, about 1/3 her height, and he seemed darker, and they had very pasty faces, like if they were, when you go to a carnival or you go to I don't know, one of those shows, and you have people standing behind a cardboard and they're looking through the cardboard, and you see their faces only, but these weird cardboard boxes. It was similar to that. Now, what did I bring this up was because I had that recurring experience for 3 years, and I started experimenting with it. Even though I was petrified, I started sleeping in different places of the house, and no matter where I slept, I would wake up in that spot and look up and see them staring at me. Sometimes they would be far from me, sometimes they'd be up right on my face when I would open my eyes. But one interesting thing is, it didn't matter where I slept in the room, I always woke up in that same spot in my dream and saw them staring at me. They just never spoke to me, they never talked, they never did nothing. And it's referring. I brought it up because of what you said. I was so afraid that because I had no clue what this was. Just as easy as it came when I was 12, it went away when I hit 15, and I never had the experience again. But it was reoccurring. It was constant. And even when I had my cousin come live with me for about a year, I thought, oh, it'll just go away. It didn't. It didn't matter.
Thanks, Dave. Mikey?
I would like to share an experience. I think it's just once it happened. I was traveling along something as a river, and I saw this monkey. It looks like a monkey, some primate, and he asked me to help him across this Gulf Stream, whatever it was. And I felt okay, and I held his hand. And while we were crossing, the water was getting deeper. It's not really water, but whatever it was getting deeper. And then the monkey came on my shoulder. He became very, very heavy. It was like 400 pounds on me. And I started to call upon my spirit guides and anyone I knew that could help. And finally, I was drowning. And finally, some guess it was my spirit guides that pulled me out of the stream, whatever it was, and I get back. And when I got back, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before I can astral project. The monkey actually drained my energy. And I read after of vampires, energy vampires, and I think that I met one of those energy vampires.
Quick story. I have two experiences I remember now that were negative or scary, and both times I went to bed and tried my out of body experience practice meditation as I went to bed, and in a scared state. I must have maybe listened to somebody talking about something scary in astral projection or ghosts or something. So when I went to bed on one of those occasions, I felt something pull me out of my body as I was drifting off to sleep, and during the meditation. So I actually was doing meditation, fell asleep, felt myself get pulled out, and I'm wrestling with something on my bed that looked like a big lizard. And I was wrestling with it for a while. I was scared. You got the like the pure emotions when you're in these states sometimes, gets right to the bone. And I got it into a headlock with my legs, and eventually it pleaded. It said, "Okay, if you let me go, I won't bother you anymore." So as soon as I let it out from my legs to the leg lock, and then it started attacking me again. It felt like it was biting me, pulling me. And then after wrestling around for a little bit on the bed, I felt myself go back into my body, and I woke up instantly, and I just smiled, and I was just like, "Wow, what the heck was that? What was that all about?" And but I after that, I didn't feel as scared as I thought I would. And when I was in there, I felt confident that whatever was doing that to me, I was kind of joking with it. I was like, "Oh, really? You know, you're really going to do that to me?" And just building myself up over the years of listening to positive information and stuff like that, what to do if something does negative happen to you when you're out of body. It came in and helped me, whatever that was, my thoughts, helpers, whatever you want to call it. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it was definitely a scary experience. And I feel it made me stronger from it. If anything, I feel a lot stronger from that. And I haven't had anything that terrifying since then. That was many years ago. Even though I had one before that too, it was kind of short. Um, Juan, got your hand up?
Yeah, going back to the what the other guy said about where he was up near the sea and there was a monkey trying to push him back into the sea. I have had a similar experience to that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I've had a similar experience. Trying to push you back into the sea is actually trying to get you to go back to sleep. Because that sea or that river is going to get you back to go back into the dream. That's happened to me before. I'd come out, slow down. I'd come out of nowhere, this river, this big ocean. Now I emerged from it onto like solid land. So I'm wondering, is this a dream or is this an astral projection because of the route of which I used to come into the astral plane? But I found everything appeared to be solid. Everything, people were going about doing their normal thing. It just appeared to be like the astral plane. I tested the characters, like, you understand, because if it's a dream character, there's certain thing that's supposed to happen. If it's a dream character, it will dissolve. But these ones, none of them dissolved. So I decided to go back to the sea, for a swim, which was a big mistake because I didn't realize that going back to the sea and the river actually meant going back into slipping back into the subconscious mind. So whilst I was swimming, I was getting a bit too further away from the shore, so I turned round to try and swim back to the shore. And of course, there was this river maidens waiting for me. Do you know what the river maidens are? It's those nymphs, kind of like they offer you sex, and once you submit to it, that's it. That's the end of your experience. You're not going to cross over into the astral plane. And that's what happened to me. I ended up going back into a deep sleep. Another question that you raise is it all imagination? From what I've learned, the power that moves the intelligence that moves the psychic body, our psychic body, is based on actuality, not fantasy. So say, for example, you do not believe that there's a Master Jesus, or you don't believe in any of these people, you can actually use astral projection to find out whether these people exist by setting your intent to take me to who this person is, or take me to so Master. I have done this, so I'm able to tell that these things are what people call imagination are a bit more than imagination. They actually reality. It's based on reality, and it can be proven. You can actually, if you've developed the ability to project your mental body or do remote viewings, you can actually able to give evidence that this thing actually is real.
Thank you, Juan.
Okay.
Dave?
I got two questions. The first one is for you, Juice. Regarding the reptile experience, did you tell us how old you were?
In my late 30s.
Okay. Okay, just curious.
Yep.
And my second question is regarding Juan's. He mentioned intent. We've all heard, you know, about how the power of intent. What fuels that? What fuels that? What motivates that? What drives that? Other than fate and belief, I'm just curious. What people think of? What fuels it? What?
Your intent has to be a real intent. Has to be something that is conceivable. A lot of people have intents that are not going to happen because the universe does not operate by that. But the intent, your intent is the power that drives your psychic body. Without any intent, nothing's going to happen. Which is the reason why when you're during projection, you have to have a plan as to what you're going to do. Now, some people say, well, I'm going to go through the ceiling. I'm going to go up through the wall. You understand? But they don't realize that the body that does that is not the astral body. So when they come to the wall, they come against concrete wall because they're trying to use their astral form to go through an astral wall. It's almost the same as trying to use your physical body to try and enter the physical through the wall. You need a different body. It's a different body, subtle body that can do that. And it's not the astral body. So no matter how much you try, you're not going to be able to do it. So, and that's a lot of what people don't know. They say, well, how come I can't go through the wall? How come I can't do this? How come I can't go through the ceiling? Well, no, you can't do it with your astral body. You need the other body to do it, your spiritual body. So there's a lot of confusion around that, around how come this one can do this and this one can't do that.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
So so a lot of the in chapter 10 here, he talks about weird type of animals. He can never see them. Sometimes he doesn't see them, and they feel like a rabid animal is trying to get him a lot. You know, so intelligent beings, intelligent animals. All right, so guys, we're gonna move on to chapter 11. And time's flying, it's almost 8 already. Pretty crazy. Chapter 11, precognition he gets into. Some precognition experiences that he has. So he was getting different types of he was getting like dream visions prior to having OBE separation. He gets into that a lot, and during his relaxation stage. And I thought maybe would that be getting into shamanic journey in a little bit. Steph, would you Marty? Go ahead, Marty.
He really went on at great length about the experience he had that he felt was his way of accepting the fact that he had a heart attack, that he presented it to himself as if he was in a plane crash. Am I in the right place here? The right chapter?
Yep, that's right.
And, he had all these things that, well, this represented that, and this represented that, and and it really seemed like he was really reaching for that. Like I just almost felt like just throw that chapter out because, you know, maybe he was right, but it wasn't very deductive reasoning. So that's my 2 cents on it.
So yeah, Marty, he's showing some interference. So yeah, he talks about his heart attack and through the form of the airplane crash, which he dreamed weeks earlier, and then he had his heart attack. And and how his intellect, I guess, maybe his imagination, how it interprets that. Is that how you got?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just seemed like a big reach to me.
Right. And he was 4 weeks in the hospital recovering from his heart attack. And while he's in the hospital under sedatives and stuff, barbiturates, he had no experiences at all, and he thinks it's due to the medication that he was put on in the hospital. He had zero experiences. And then he gets into the valve. He gets into the valve that opens up, showing him future events that could happen. Uh, Marty, I'm curious what do you think about that, the future events?
Um, he didn't really elaborate enough on what his evidence was. You know, he said he had something like 22 events or something, but it didn't, again, it didn't sound real convincing to me, because he was doing too much. Well, this would represent that, and you know, so I don't know what anybody else thinks about that.
Yeah, when I was going through that chapter, I don't know if maybe I felt like he was being a bit vague and reaching a little bit too.
Hey, Dave, let me just
Is it
stop you.
possible to stop the music?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who's got the music going. I can't. Okay, good. All right, Dave. Sorry.
So sorry about the but maybe he was just attempting to make a correlation between the events that um that happened and the dreams he had prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
But if he's tapping into the future events, that could be pretty, pretty cool, a pretty special ability of the out of body state to possibly see future events going on.
Okay.
Some of
It's
them he
interesting.
verified, some of them he didn't.
Juice, I don't know if there's a reason why I joined this group, but this particular thing, this chapter specifically, remember I told you in 1995, the month of March 1995, I had an experience, and then a year later I found out that Mr. Monroe passed away that same month in that same year.
Yeah, I thought about you, Dave.
Yeah,
Go on.
yeah. When I was going through that chapter, I was like, I will tell you finally what it is. So during that month, I'd never heard of Mr. Monroe or at the Monroe Institute. And what had happened was I meditated for 2 straight hours, just sitting up, though I wasn't lying down. And then all of a sudden, I heard all these voices that came at me, and I couldn't focus. There was just so many voices. And then one voice came to me, and it sounded like my voice, but an older, wiser version of my voice. Anyway, I'm just going to jump a little bit to the fast forward to that. So this, the voice told me a couple things about myself. I asked some questions, and then all of a sudden, an older gentleman voice came to me, and he told me his name was Monroe. And he said, right now, these questions you're asking, I know you want to hear the answers to them, but we need to show you. And he said, we need to show you something. You and another member of your family and other people are being shown this. And he showed me things that happened in the past that were happening in the present, and he showed me things that were happening in the future. We were physically brought to those locations, and he showed me. And the following, like, you know, I got out of it after 2 hours of meditating. I opened my eyes and I was like, what just happened? What kind of experience is this? But I forgot about it. I literally forgot about it. I went to sleep, forgot about the whole experience. And the next day, my sister came up to me and she told me, Dave, I had the most incredible experience. This elderly man came to me and he showed me all these things. And he said that you and I were chosen to receive this information. My mouth dropped, you know, my jaw dropped, of course. And I was like, whoa. And then it was only a year later that someone was going through my dream journal and they found that. And they said, Dave, you need to call the Institute now. And that's when I started reaching out to the Institute. So regarding traveling in the future and seeing information like that, I don't know what to say. I If
Um,
anybody could do it, he would be able to. He would have been the one to do it.
and he mentioned that in the book that he was going to do that. The people that he knows, if he died from his heart attack or something, or some of his out of body stuff, if he died in the plane crash when he's having his precog, he was thinking that he might die in a plane crash. Maybe that's what it was telling him. And if he did, he would try his best to come back and let people know that. And maybe because if you're the way you are, Dave, you just tapped into it. You know, you tapped into that part of what the signal that he was sending out of how he could do it with the physical, which is pretty amazing.
That's what Laurie said.
Um, did in any of your things have you ever got a hiss valve prediction as he calls it, hiss valve opening?
Oh,
Uh,
who me juice or someone
Yeah,
else?
you, Dave. Did you ever? He called it a hiss valve
Yeah, I
opening.
saw that. I saw the
Yeah.
his valve. I mean, no, I don't know, but like, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Other than the experience that I had with Mr. Monroe, not in the way he puts it, actually. No.
Here's the thing he put here. The consistency has been established, and this is the little formula he made up for his hiss valve. So you guys can see here, and then the future event vision comes after it. So it was always the same in the future event. Let me get back here. All right.
Yeah, no juice. I can't say anything close to like that. That looked like it was like some kind of pattern he had figured out.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't stick out for me.
okay, can I make a point regarding traveling to future and things like that? One can experience the future in a dream. You can have a dream where you see a future event that happens. And it's also possible to project into the future. The possible future, that's the word to use. Because I've done it once before. And what I found out is that whilst some of them came true, some didn't come true. And the ones that came true, there was already something in the pipeline already that was to show that those things were going to manifest anyway. Whereas the other ones were speculations. And that's what I found regarding going into the future when you travel into the future. It's not everything that you see that's going to come true, that's going to manifest. But if you see it in a dream, if you see the future in a dream, the chances are very strong that it's gonna happen. Because by the time it gets to where you're seeing it in the dream, it would have been trashed around the four planes and it's ended up in your dream, which means it's going to manifest. And before the manifestation happens, there will be a series of deja vus that will lead you to the experience. You will just have series of deja vus. But those deja vus are just memories that you had in the dream about what was going to happen. And I've had that happen to me before, which avoided me getting involved in a car accident. Because on the day the car accident was going to happen, um, I stayed in because I saw all the signs that said stay in. So thank God the accident did happen, but I wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Juan, this is where he gets into here. Let me share this. He says here at the end of the chapter, kind of what you're saying here, only time will bring the confirmation of his visions because not all of them came true.
Yeah.
He had many more, and he hopes that some of them are hallucinations because of how bad they were, tragic. So, um, and in one of them here, he talks about seeing like a UFO which was pretty interesting, I thought. A giant UFO is approaching Earth that he's never seen before, and that they were V-shaped. Which a lot of people report that UFOs that they're seeing today are V-shaped. All right, get back here.
If aliens are going to come to Mother Earth, it will be for humanitarian reasons. To come and save us from
Right.
ourselves.
Okay, guys, let's go move on to chapter 12. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about 11 before we go to 12? I don't see any hands up. I know not everybody can get their hands working.
Just that last part though in that chapter 11 that you just highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
I pray that's true. I understand that. Like I really pray that's true. I hope some of them are hallucinations.
Right. I guess whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice if it's some of that doesn't come true. All right,
Um,
chapter 12. Oh, Marty, go ahead, Marty.
Who was it that had that Monroe visited? Was that Dave? That
Yeah,
he said
well,
he showed him the past, present, and future. Who was
that's
that?
correct.
Yes.
Hi
That was
Marty, it was
Dave.
me.
Okay. Yeah, that we need to see your face sometime. Anyway.
Yeah, I would show it, but it's just because we're recording right now. I can show it at the end if this is okay with removing the recording.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anyway, so the future stuff that he showed you, did it come true?
Do we have the time for me to talk about that or Juice?
Dave, you want to tell like maybe one or two?
Okay, the biggest thing he showed me in the future was we were hovering in the air, him and myself, and I couldn't really see him. I just knew he was beside me, and as he was talking to me, he was showing me the ground, and the earth looked like Mars. There was a red planet, and humans, they actually lived inside like caves, but at the same time, even though they had to live underground, they had what do you call that? They had vessels that could move, anti-gravity vessels that they could move around. But because of whatever happened with the sun, they had to live underground. That was the biggest one I'll never forget. And he said, if things don't change, that's where we're headed.
Sounds like 12 Monkeys, if you ever saw that movie.
Oh yeah.
The present, when he showed me the present, was hurricanes, tidal waves, that kind of stuff. But everybody dreams about that kind of stuff, so I didn't really but I shouldn't ignore it. But yeah,
Wasn't conclusive.
yeah, I mean, everybody dreams about stuff like that. It was just the future stuff that really took me by surprise. It was very real. Another lucid feeling.
It's funny you should mention that because I read somewhere of a lad, a young boy who remembered he used to live in Mars. And people said, well, no, there's no life on Mars. Nobody lives on Mars anymore. And his answer to that is that, yes, they still live there, but they live underneath the tunnels. They live underground.
Well,
Because
question.
the whole atmosphere has been polluted. So I just hope Earth doesn't become like that.
If there are different dimensions of Earth, there's a physical Earth, and then there's like astral Earth, you know what I mean? And then there's another one that are all Earth, but then could not the same thing be true of like Mars, that there may be the physical Mars that we're aware of, and maybe there's one on another plane or another plane that can support life? I don't know.
That's interesting. That's interesting, actually.
I would say yes, from my experience. Multi-dimensional, you hear, and different bodies, different frequencies. I would say yes. Anyone else? That would be a good survey, Marty. I should have made a survey up on that one. I should have made a poll. I didn't get time to make polls today. But that's a good poll question. And if anybody ever has a question like that that they would want to know from a group, just send me a message beforehand and I'll make a poll just to see where everybody's at and how it relates to
Okay.
yourself. All right, guys, chapter 12. So in chapter 12, he starts to get into, he talks about a few situations, experiences, which do not seem to be of locale 2 and 3. So he doesn't know where they are. Even though he tries to break it down into locales, he doesn't know what part of locales or where these experiences are taking place. Um, oh, okay. So Marty, in here, I have a note to ask you something. And here he talks about exploding out of his body, like you
Oh,
described.
huh.
And he gets, he got exploded out of his body so bad that he thought he died physically. He's like, okay, this is what happens when you die. You get shot out of your body like this. And he thought he was
Hmm.
actually possibly dead until he got back into his body because the way it happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then he gets into finding a strange device called a 1-20/LG device that he uses in one of his experiences. It's a strange device that puts people to sleep, wakes them up, and puts out fires. And he said one day he might try to build one. I don't know if he ever did. That'd be interesting. There's no hands up. Any comments? Questions?
I can make a point in that one. Um, it is possible to actually get. It is possible to get power to actually be able to do that what he just mentioned without having to create a machine to do it.
Right.
Okay. Well, one time when I was projecting, I actually asked for extra power that I can use to project anytime I wanted. Okay. I was given the power, but what then happened was um, the power got corrupted. If you understand what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Once I got the power, so on my way back down, when I was coming down with the power, um, out of the blue, a guy appeared out of nowhere and said, "Oh, do you want power to heal? Do you want power to do this? Or you want power?" And I said, "Yes. Give me your hands." And I gave him my hands, and he put his hands on top of it. Well, I didn't feel any exchange of energy. In fact, I felt drained. I felt like it was actually draining me. And then I realized what had happened. I'd been tricked. So, but even though the energy had been compromised, I was still able to use it. Every time I wanted to project, I just used to put my hands on top of my head, and I would knock myself to sleep. I would hear myself snore, and I was able to just go. And I used it for a while. I used it to accomplish so many things, but in the end, it became too much. It became too much in the sense that um, I just kept on having a series of paralysis, where your body goes into the paralysis state and you project. But this could happen when I was driving a car or when I
Oh
was at work. So I realized that now I have to I have to tone this thing down. I have to tone it down. So eventually it faded. I just let it go because I was quite happy. I was quite happy to have projections once every month now, not 3 times a day
yeah.
or 4 times a day. It became too much for me. Too much.
Right.
So you have to be careful for what you ask for.
Yeah.
So I can understand why the thing was toned down. Because normally I found that every time you go up to the higher plane and you're bringing something down, there's always something there ready to come and take it from you. Yeah.
Right.
Can we
Yeah.
turn off the TV in the background?
Oh, yes. Sorry about that.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
share this here, guys. So here he's so of course 12 here. We're in 12. Gets into a few of those which seem to happen in locale 2 or 3. And here's a part, Marty, that tremendous soundless explosion. Let's see, he gets into, and the blast slammed me across the room and against the wall in the opposite corner, where I slid to the floor. So that's it instantly reminded me of your story.
Yeah, it's a little different. He's saying his whole astral body got slammed against the wall. For me, I felt like my physical body, like I had this tremendous. It was almost like Alien, the movie, or something. You know, where this energy was like in my abdomen, and my abdomen started to swell up like a volcano. You know,
Right.
and then it burst, and then I went out through that. You know, my astral body went out through it. So my astral body, and then I was just projected and sort of hit the floor, you know, foot first, and my feet just had to run so that I didn't tip over frontward. So it was a little different. He was saying that it was like the instant he lay down and closed his eyes that he had this
Yeah.
explosion, where his astral body was, I don't know, a little different. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be
No.
argumentative.
Here's the condition here. He talks about the 1-20 LQ, where and then here's the jaw movement procedure, Marty, you were talking about earlier here, the jaw
Right.
procedure. I always like to highlight the
Right.
different procedures and techniques he uses just to look them up later and stuff. And then the peak turning position of the jaw, and this is the best way you can explain it during there, to get the vibrations and stuff like that. So I guess certain type of technique.
Yeah, I think that's tuning. You know,
Yeah.
like a tuning fork.
Oh yeah, yep. And here
You
it
know,
is, like
that he's
tuning past the radio
tuning.
station on the dial here.
Yeah.
Where's
Oh, I see. So that's where, yeah, it's easy to get those two words.
okay, let's turn this off here.
Actually, I'm just curious. Was anybody else confused with page 163, the 6763 night? That
I'll try
extract.
163. Let me pull that up here.
I know he was jumping back and forth with his dates.
I have an audio book, so.
Okay, so
Sorry.
yeah, he does jump back and forth. 162.
Yeah.
Okay, so right around here.
So when he was talking here, he didn't specify, was it a dream? Was it the 6763 night at the bottom? It was how he explained that he met a woman outside his house who was also flying.
Right.
So but then he went on, and it sounded like well, not that it sounded, but he went to an institution with her. So this is probably a locale 3 then, the way he was trying to explain it. Or he didn't specify if it was a dream.
Yeah.
But it seemed like just another vivid experience. I guess the reason why I want to bring that one up, and I don't know if it covers out later in the chapters, was a burning question for many with astral projection is it possible to astrally project with another human being? And what kind of energy would require to do that?
I know Monroe did experiments with that. Have you heard of that, Dave, at the Institute?
Oh, yes, Juice.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that question. I have a number of those types of tests they were doing, like anybody can get that off the internet. and they were the controlled environment tests where they would send two people at the same time to a remote location to uncover concealed information whereby you wouldn't be able to access it physically. The thing about that is they were not always successful, and this brought a very burning question. um, is it possible that when we astrally project that we're not always on the same timeline, and that's why we can't see each other?
Hmm. Anybody
It's
like
got
to
nothing to
respond?
do with timeline, because the astral body is not bound by time, and the astral plane is not bound by time.
Okay.
So if you can't see each other, it means you're not doing it right. Because all you need to do is an intent to see the person, but the person has to be able to project in the first place. I've had someone who had attempted to project into my dream before, into my you know, and I was in a dream when they tried to project. But as the result of them trying to project into my dream became lucid. So and then so I became lucid in my dream, and when I became lucid in my dream, the whole dream scenario dissolved, and I found myself outside of my body. But I did not. I saw him knocking at my window, knocking on the door, trying to get in. But when I exited, I did not see him. But when I woke up, he gave me a phone call. He said, "Did you see me?" I said, "Yes, I saw you, but you vanished." He said, "Yeah, I was trying to look for where you lived." I said, "No, next time, instead of trying to look for where I live, focus on me, because I might not be in the house." So
That's some serious concrete
I know
proof
it's
you have
possible.
there.
So hello, I know it's possible to meet someone on the astral plane. Sometimes you can even meet by thoughts. Now, Monroe said he met someone flying on the astral plane. Now, the only people that fly on the astral plane are not the astral beings, but people that go projecting. They're the ones that fly on the astral plane. But the people that live on the astral plane, they don't fly. That's my
So only
observation.
only beings from here can do that? Is that what you're saying?
It's only human beings that do it, that are awake. They're the ones that project on the astral plane. Normal astral beings, you won't find them flying. They where they go, they just live normal like the way they live on the physical plane.
Dave, I did some experiments with Steph and Jason and in the group years ago with varied results and stuff, where we try to meet each other. And we
Okay.
did have some weird connections, but we didn't study it enough to get any. I felt concrete. Stephanie would and Jason might say differently, but I think it's fun doing stuff like that, doing experiments, which I want to start doing more of eventually.
Okay. Okay.
Again,
Yeah. So sometimes when you do it jointly, the other person might not be aware that they are having an astral projection. So what they report back to you is a dream version of what happened on the astral plane, which will be fragmented. For example, I took someone out one time, went flying, but then he had a dream that me and him were in an aeroplane, and he was the co-pilot, and I was the pilot flying the plane. But that was his own. That is how he picked it. But I had a different experience. So I realized he was not awake. He was not awake. Well, he was not conscious of the astral plane. So he got a reflection of which is the dream of flying or something like that. That's what he got. So it all depends on the person. But I found that those that can project, if you can project, it is possible for you to meet up with another person that can project. It's got nothing to do with frequency or timeline or anything. You just have to both of you have to set your intent.
right?
Okay.
Well, guys, getting close to 8:30 here. For a few minutes, does anybody have anything they would want to, you know, anything going on they want to say? Any plugs for anything or final thoughts for the night they want to bring up?
Yeah, one one thing. It's to do with when going back to that part where he said he felt there was an explosion. Now that is actually quite normal. It's some people hear a gunshot, or they hear like a loud noise, bang, and after that comes the popping noise. That just means that the astral hymen, the astral hymen has been cracked and the astral body has been released.
Right.
It's actually a progress. If you hear that gunshot and that banging noise, it's a progress. That's to do with pineal gland activity.
Right. Brian?
Has anyone tried using like lucid dreaming pills? Like I saw on Amazon, it was called Dreamleaf, and it's supposed to like enhance your dream recall and all this, and possibly give you like, you know, lucid dreams. Has anyone had any success with anything like that?
Yep.
I was gonna say, Jason, there's your area.
Yeah, I haven't tried Dreamleaf. Bob Peterson, I think, may have tried that. We could ask him. But the one that I've tried, and one of our other hosts, Mike Menudo, recommends is galantamine or galantamine, which is just galantamine with or galantamine, I think it's pronounced, combined with some other stuff, and that works really well.
Yeah. Well, Dreamleaf is the name of the actual, it's like the brand name, but it's got galantamine, like choline, a few of these, you know, kind of
Yeah.
ingredients that would, it's supposed to make it, you know, like more vivid and lucid.
Yeah, for sure. I would actually I was on that when I had my first out of body experience. So yeah, I totally recommend it.
Okay, I might give that a try.
Jason, I'm going to post on the chat area there. I'm going to post a link to the that YouTube video where you talk about the different things you can use.
Oh yeah, sure.
And stuff. Brian, I'm gonna post that on the side.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, in a few minutes here on the chat area there, I'll post that. Dave?
Oh, thanks. I was just going to say that I got a guy that's in my unit, and for 4 years now, I've been trying to figure out if he's full of BS or not. But he has claimed for the last 4 years that he can initiate it consciously between 50 and 60 astral projection sessions just by sitting down and meditating with full control. He has explained to me that the only reason why he does it is to go around looking at, I apologize for any females in the group, is to look at females. So like I said, I do not know if he's telling the truth, but for 4 years he has been claiming and standing by that. He also says that he sees a lot of dead people. That's another thing. I would really like to get him in here at some points, but I'll talk to you later about that, Juice.
Okay, yeah. Monroe talks about his books, sexuality and sexual energy is very strong in the out-of-body state.
Didn't we hear that there's like a particular, like, I guess, flavor, I don't know what you call it, of Zen monks, and like their grandmaster in Japan has been trained to do that, but it you know, it takes him like 60 years to get to that point. So I don't know if that information's out there, but like, you know, there is a guy at least that supposedly can just, whenever he wants, just instantly, but like 60 years of training. And so
right. Hey, Dave, do you know how much? Dave, do you know how much training that guy had?
I have been trying to dig it out of him for 4 years. I mean, he's a pagan, which is odd to be working with what I do, but no, I can't give a straight answer on that one. The only thing I know is he said he just got a knack for it. It's first started off when he started seeing dead people, is what he told me, and he just got used to that.
Right.
He would be walking around and he would see them, and down the street from where I live, he doesn't even live that far from me, and he would see them, and he got used to it, and it was not a big deal anymore because they just don't talk, that you just see them. And then he started reading up about it, years ago, and he got involved. And when he got married, he discovered that this is one way for him not to, for him to stay faithful to his wife in his mind. And he started projecting. And I said, "Are you sure you're telling me you can initiate this at will?" He goes, "Yeah, I just sit down and I initiate it and I'm gone."
Right.
50
Yep.
to 60 sessions a year. I just can't even believe that. And I
Wow. Marty?
Don't mean to like literally beat a dead horse, but you know, my motivation for connecting with the deceased. The poll last time, there were 40% of people said they do connect with the deceased when they're traveling. And you know, it's probably too big a can of worms for me to be opening here, but I just wondered if people could give any of their experiences on that, since that's what I'd like to do. But I sort of almost given up on it, to tell you the truth, from Susan saying it was so difficult. Although Robert Monroe said all he had to do was think of the personality of his uncle and bloop, he was there. So
Right.
I don't know. There seems to be, that's why I was wondering anybody else's experience of how hard it was, what it was
Marty,
like.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. I wasn't trying to be insensitive. I assure you.
Oh, no problem. That's in the book, like he said.
I would recommend you look into Bruce Moen, Moen. He focuses on the afterlife experiences, and he trains people to do that. And he points out that a full OBE isn't necessary. You can just have a daydream and validate the daydream. So I would definitely look into him instead. There's not so much as far as how-tos from the Monroes books, but yes, the Institute itself has a whole focus on that. It's called the Lifeline program, I think. But yeah, look
Yeah.
into Bruce Miller.
Yeah.
He's more
Lifeline.
specialized.
Go on, Steph.
What about
So
you
you can
guys?
hear
What
me.
experiences have you had personally with that, if any? Juice, you said you didn't believe that there was life after death, and that's another whole can of worms there. But
I haven't gotten to the point yet where it's 100%. I would like to get to that point one day. Even with my out of body experiences, nothing's proved to me that life continues with the experiences I had.
right, because theoretically you could need your physical body to be the engine for the
Yeah.
astral.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else out there want to mention something? Or Marty, did your question get answered with everybody?
Well, I was kind of hoping that somebody would have a personal experiences to relate, but I guess not. So that's okay.
Definitely, what
I
Steph
know,
said.
I know. I do have a experience of projecting. I've seen someone who passed on, and that was my granddad. So all I just did is set the intent to meet them, to meet my granddad. And when the time came during my astral projection, I just set my intent to meet him, and I saw him. He was there before I got there, and then he gave me a hug, and I asked him, "How come you came without my grandma?" And then he said, "Because I never requested for my grandma. You see, you need to request for things for them to happen." I assumed that, oh, he'll come with my grandmother, but he didn't. He came on his own. So I also tried to check to see my dad, but that was more difficult because he didn't want to be seen. He had his back turned. We and him didn't have a very good relationship due to other reasons. But eventually I did get to see him. Eventually I did get to see him in the company of my granddad. After, because it looks like for a while when they first pass over, there's a pause. I think he hanged on for a while because of the way he died. But eventually he crossed over. So it is possible if you can project. If you can project, it's possible for you to meet loved ones. There's so many things you can do with projection that people don't even know, that they've not even written in books. You know, once you can project, you can actually find out what is real and you know, and what is not. You're not traveling. You're not journeying into a world of illusion. They are actually concrete things. They're actually concrete in you know in how the astral plane is and beyond.
Right. Julie, you got your hand up, but you're muted.
Hi, thanks for having me. And sorry if you guys already discussed this, but one of the questions and that I haven't really understood quite yet is the difference between um, lucid dreaming, which is done, I think, he says in focus 2, or I think you say locale 2, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure how those interchange. And when you project into that same focus 2. So what is the difference, I guess, experientially speaking, and how you perceive things?
Well,
You
with the
just
focus,
need to have Bob's card ready for these. I remember Bob Peterson made a little graph to answer that. He has kind of a grid for degrees of consciousness. You know, you're mostly unconscious when you're in a regular dream versus lucid, that kind of thing, and then degrees of reality. And he had a nice way of explaining it. He has a blog post about it too.
Didn't he say though that they're both part of your subjective conscious? You're not going to meet anyone there that's not outside of your own mind. I guess that's what I'm part of my confusion is when I'm dreaming, it's all in my mind, so to speak, subjective. I'm not going to meet any independent entities. And as well as I thought.
I wouldn't say that. I've definitely met various things in the lucid dream that were not an astral projection. Robert Monroe, sorry.
Wagoner.
Well, one of the Bobs, because there's so many Bobs, it said that in his experience and observation, it's as if a lucid dream takes place in an energetic bubble around your head at night. And so it is a real space, but it's condensed kind of like a VR headset. And theoretically and actually people can join that. Your dream guide is one who can interact with you as an avatar in that space. But to have a true astral projection, you need to leave that little kind of private-ish zone, and then you can go out into the, you could call it real world, real astral plane. So it's mostly private, but it's very possible to have interaction. And you can kind of also use it as a base to reach out and get input.
So would you say then that lucid dreaming, or I should say astral projecting into focus 2, which is where lucid dreaming takes place, the astral projection is a higher phasing or a higher level of consciousness than lucid dreaming, and that's the only difference? I'm trying to figure out the difference between lucid dreaming in focus 2 and astral projecting into focus 2.
I would base it off of what your ability is. Like in the physical world, you can't move things with your mind. Things are very, very solid. In the astral plane, everything's mutable with your mind. So same thing with lucid dreaming, right? So it's like your astral body is interacting with the astral energy in a lucid dream. It's just in a designated space that's just yours. But that's, you know, like a very editable rule set. Those rules can be broken, right? But so I would say it is actually of a higher vibration, higher dimension. It's just private, mostly private.
So focus 2, maybe I'm just not getting this. I thought focus 2 was private, all of focus 2. And then focus 3 is community with actual independent entities.
Yeah, with the focus levels, we would have, he doesn't really get into them on the book. We would have to, that would be a good thing to do one day, do on the different focus levels. But with locale, 1, 2, and 3, he doesn't really get into mentioning any focus and the differences between uh, the dreaming. And as far as I know, the dreaming is not even located in the locales, because the first locale 1 is basically just when you're out of your body in the physical world. And that seems like to me that bypasses it, bypasses any of that. But the focus levels, I know there's a whole thing on him that he works his way all the way from 1, and the ones that seem to be missing all the way up until, you know, in the 30s or 40s, wherever how far up he gets to. But that would be like a future discussion. That could be a whole entire night on those.
Well, I guess I can make a quick case in point. You can turn a lucid dream into an astral projection. And when people do so, they get to skip the vibrations. They get to skip that tight focus that you need. It's like you're already loose, you're already out-ish, and it's just one extra nudge to get out of body. You could, so let's say you're in a dreamscape, and you know it's a dream because everything's revolving around you. You can't have a still, quiet environment. Things will dynamically interact and animate around you. And so you can just spin in place as one of the techniques, and that'll dissolve the dream illusion. And then you might find yourself in your body or standing next to your body. And from there, just a matter of moving out, and because then you are already out. Whereas if you're in a normal hypnagogic state or a waking state, it's this whole long process to just, you know, you go through the vibrations and the trance and then this tight focus, and then you can finally get out. So that's kind of like evidence that the lucid dream is already a semi out of body state. And that would indicate that like where you are is kind of in a higher place.
Steph, what did you say? Hi, it's David. What did you say about the technique? What was the technique when you're in the lucid dream?
So you're in a lucid dream. So you're in a dream, you become lucid.
Yes.
Spin, just like a little kid, you know, twirl around and
Really?
watch everything. Yeah, it'll all get blurry and then it'll dissolve.
Get
I
out
had,
of here. Come on.
I know. Yeah, like that easy, right? Like it's one of the best techniques, except the hard part is becoming lucid then. Right, but if you happen to be a lucid dreamer naturally, then yeah, that's a fantastic way out. You get to skip all the hard stuff.
I remember
I've done that a couple
just the,
times, but I just come back to my body.
Huh.
Yeah, but don't wake up. That's the trick. It's delicate. Yeah,
Exactly.
like you have this association with body and weight, and you might twitch and ruin it.
Right.
But if you
Oh
can
my
hold
God.
still and just maybe keep spinning would be a better segue so that you don't accidentally like sit up or twitch the wrong muscle. Yeah.
well,
Okay, I'm
the
gonna
other
try
technique,
this.
just to cut in, there's another technique that I remember that is that if you're lucid, to fall backwards, and the falling sensation will trigger an OBE.
Right.
And also, I posted the link to that to Bob Peterson's Dreams versus OBEs. It's in the chat.
Yep. Jason posted those and that in there.
I got
And I
that.
also posted a video done by Jason on different supplements you can take to help with lucid dreaming and recall and stuff like that. It's on there too for everybody to check out.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, can I just make a point from what the other guy said? Like when you find yourself falling in a dream that you become lucid and then you end up waking up in the dream. That's a standard. That's actually is a standard method that I use to come out of lucid dream. Now the other the female that said when she became lucid in the dream, she awoke in her physical body. Well, that actually is what's supposed to happen. But what you do then is that you don't open your eyes. You understand?
Right.
Because you're in the perfect state for astral projection, because you've just come back from dreaming, and now you're back in your body. You don't need to do any relaxation. You just need to clear your mind, make sure there's nothing in your mind, and then you go through the process of projection. You start feeling the vibration or something like that. Some people can exit direct to the astral plane from from lucid dreaming, but some people have to come down through the etheric plane. The
Right.
etheric plane is that room, the one with the room with all the entities and all that one. Yeah, that's what that one is. Uh-huh. But that body is actually part of our physical body. The etheric body is part of the physical fact. It's the etheric body that props the physical body up. It's the body that contains the psychic part of us. You know, where the chakra system is all lined up. Without the etheric body, there'd be no physical body. We'll be dead.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna try these out because I have lucid dreams where I have a decent level of awareness where I can count up to 10 and count backwards, but I don't believe I've ever. I can't say with proof that I've astrally projected. So I'm gonna try this spin around thing and um, fall back. I'm gonna give those two a try. It'll take me probably a couple months. Hopefully, I can maybe get at least one of that happening.